I'ma be the king, hold the wind, let the games begin. Go!
What is up, hunters? My name is Xalest, or Alex, whichever one you prefer, and today, ladies and gentlemen, we will be going over my top 5 picks for the 5 best monsters in Monster Hunter World. This is the first episode of my brand new Monster Hunter series on this channel that I'll be calling Tuesday Top 5s, so without further ado, let's begin. Quick trigger warning. The following video is based on opinion and not fact, meaning that your top 5 picks might be different from mine, but that's okay. Just be sure to comment your top 5s down below, and I'll be sure to read them. Of course, if they're different from mine, they're probably wrong. Before we begin, I should also drop the disclaimer that Elder Dragons will not be included on this list because it just wouldn't be fair to the other monsters. Now, let's get down to it. Starting off our list at the number 5 spot is the electrified flying squirrel/snake Tobi-Kadachi. And I mean, come on, that description alone should be enough to put it on this list. Tobi's design is, in my opinion, one of the best in the game, and his parts make for some pretty awesome looking weapons too. He was also the first monster in Monster Hunter World to actually present me with a challenge when I was first playing through the game. Fighting Tobi helped me to quickly learn how much of a bitch Thunderblight could be when you're not prepared for it. His moveset is pretty fun too, especially the move when he jumps and glides through the air and then kinda lands on his tail and bounces like a beach ball at you. The only real downside to Tobi that I would say is his armor set, which is kinda I mean, I do like the look of the waist piece, but I mean, other than that, you know, it's whatever. It's not great. Anyway, to sum it all up, he's just a cool-looking, fun first challenge that happens to be half snake, half flying squirrel. Coming in at our number 4 spot, we have the apex predator of the Coral Highlands, Legiana. First of all, she is the only monster in the game so far that can cause Ice Blight, which makes her pretty unique, so, you know, score 1 for uniqueness. Second of all, she looks amazing. I mean, when you see her flying above you in the Coral Highlands, it just hits you as to how perfectly she fits this locale. Her armor set is slick and can be pretty useful pre-Elder Dragons. And did I mention the final phase of her fight? I mean, the first time I climbed all the way up to that mountain peak made for quite the memorable experience, and it really shows the fact that she is the apex in this environment. Okay, granted, it kinda gets annoying climbing all the way up there every time you fight her. I mean, it's kind of a trek, but I still think it's well worth it. Now, my number 3 spot may come as a bit of a surprise to you, or, you know, maybe you agree with me here, but it goes to Dodogama. When I first saw the trailer for Monster Hunter World and saw this half-second shot of his face, I instantly knew he was a winner. I mean, come on! Look at that face! He's adorable! Don't you just want to, like, give him a big hug and then brutally murder him and use his parts for weapons and armor? Yeah, this game is it's kind of violent, isn't it? Speaking of weapons and armor, though, I'd say his are pretty sharp. Yes, pun intended. And okay, I know that he's an easier monster, and he's a reskin of Great Jagras, but how can you not love him anyway? Just look at him when he sleeps, he like burrows in there. He's adorable. I almost feel bad every time I have to hunt him. So I had to put him on this list. Plus, his concept of eating rocks and melting them down inside and then spitting them out at you is a pretty cool one. And he's a weaker blast monster, which means it's easier to get blast weapons than previous Monster Hunter games. So I'm giving Dodo the number 3 spot. Oh gosh, Alex, you shouldn't have. I know, but don't tell them that. Flying right in at number 2 on this list, we have the B-52 bomber himself, Basilgoose. Look, I know Basilgoose can be a bit of a pain in the ass sometimes after he shows up to ruin your 5th quest in a row, but I still can't deny the fact that I love him as a monster. The fact that he grows literal bombs as scales and uses them to his advantage is so freaking awesome. He's got a great design, and I feel like his fight never really gets old because you've got to constantly be on alert to like dodge all of his bombs, and It kind of sucks because they're all over the place and kind of hinders the fight, but you know, I like it. I like the challenge. His armor's pretty cool looking, especially the helmet, and his weapons have some of the most unique designs in the game. The only thing that I'd really change about him is the frequency of how often he shows up on quests, mainly because I keep running out of fucking dung pods. But yeah, Basil comes in at number 2. Now before I get to the number 1 spot, I'd just like to point out one honorable mention for this list, which goes to Great Gyros. Mainly due to his design as a giant lizard with the head of a cobra, but also the fact that I like how his paralysis perfectly counters Oda Garen in the Veil, because, as you probably know, Odo has a 3-star weakness to paralysis, so I feel like from an ecology standpoint, like realistically, that's a nice detail, you know? He's also got a pretty cool looking armor set too, but I just didn't think he was quite up to par with the other monsters on this list. Sorry, Gyros. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, and finally rolling in at the number 1 spot on the list, we have the 2 big-chinned brothers, Radobon and Uragon. Okay, look, before you go down to the comments section and complain that I put 2 monsters the number 1 spot on the list, let's just chill out for a second. I mean, come on, they are pretty much the same monster with few minor differences, but I just didn't want both of them taking up 2 different spots on the list, you know? I feel like it would be kind of unfair, especially since they're, you know, they're pretty similar. As for why I put them at the number 1 spot, it's the fact that they're so different from all the other monsters in the game in both shape and fighting style. The way they roll around in their respective arenas trying to barrel you down and then use their big chins to smash and stagger you, I think it makes for a really fun fight. They're also the only 2 monsters in the game with sleep attacks, which is pretty cool, and you know, score 1 for uniqueness again. And did I mention you can mine from their backs? When they fall over, you can go around and start going at it with a pickaxe. That's such a cool little detail to add, you know? Okay, so I'm editing this together now, and I just heard the whole going at it with a pickaxe thing, and yeah, let's just leave it at that. Let's just pretend it didn't happen. Alright? It's fine. It's all good. And look at the armor sets for these 2. They turn you into a freaking tank. I mean, it's absurd, and I love it. And speaking of things that I love, another little detail is that the environments that they live in are literally shaped from all the rolling around they do. Like, they're turned into these circular raceway tracks, kind of, for them to just basically go wherever they want because they roll everywhere, and I think it's a cool little detail. As you can tell, I'm all about the cool little details. So there you have it. The Roly Boys come in at number 1. Once again, let me know your top 5 in the comments down below. I hope you've enjoyed this very first episode, and if you have, please be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss another one. I'm just getting started on this channel, so it would be much appreciated. But that's all for now. I hope to see you again in the next one. I've been Xalest, or Alex, whichever you prefer, and so long.